best things investing in your kids' ears and nesting. Now this looks like a job for me, so everybody just follow me, cause we need a little controversy, cause it feels so empty without me. I said this looks like a job for me, so everybody just follow me, cause we need a little controversy, cause it feels so empty without me.
Howdy.
Howdy.
Welcome down to the Hat. I'm Bellboy.
And I'm Sydney.
Today's another Under Your Hat special. We're piling them in this time. And it's from
Richard and Horrick.
Richard and Horrick.
Hi there.
This one's for you.
Yeah, he's a big Papa Pump fan.
Yeah.
Steiner. And we were having a discussion. He likes him, and we were having a discussion. We like him too, but more for his gimmick rather than his actual wrestling ability. So he came up with the question, the discussion of the topic: does a wrestler's gimmick override wrestling ability?
Yeah, very good subject, I think.
In some cases, I mean, is there examples of it? So we're going to talk a little bit today, but as always, add your comments down below and see if you're going to agree with us in what we think.
Yeah. I think he's got a very valid point of, like, wrestlers, a lot of the wrestlers in history have depended upon their gimmicks more than their wrestling skills. I mean, and made a lot of success out of doing it. I mean, Hulk Hogan was probably the most famous one of the lot.
That's it.
He was very much more the character rather than the wrestling ability. And then you got totally the other side of the coin. I mean,
Bret Hart.
Bret Hart. People like that, even though Bret was still pretty good at character, his main thing was his wrestling ability.
Yeah. What we'll do is we'll just list a few characters off that we think rely on their wrestler's gimmick, and then a few characters that rely on their wrestler ability, and then we'll compare the two types. So for wrestling gimmick, you've got superstars like Hulk Hogan.
Yep. Ultimate Warrior.
That's it.
You've got like John Cena nowadays. You could even say Batista, even though Batista is sort of in the middle. He's still not exactly the greatest wrestler, but he relies more on his gimmick. You've got people...
Big Papa Pump.
Big Papa Pump, as you might say. Who else would you have?
Then for wrestling ability, you would have...
Well, you got Bret Hart.
Kurt Angle.
You got Shawn Michaels.
Shelton Benjamin.
Yep. Shelton Benjamin. I suppose you could say you've got Mr. Perfect, Ric Flair. But then again, there's some of these here that have joint. I mean, they've got both.
Yeah. I mean, that is the ideal, when you get a character with both.
That separates the good from the great.
That's it. But I think the gimmicks used to be a lot better. They used to have a lot more use for gimmicks in the old generation than they do now. They look for more wrestling ability nowadays, bringing in wrestlers with just their names and not like some big gimmick that they live up to.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of the greatest matches in history, might I add, are more gimmick based. I mean, you've got WrestleMania 6, Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. The wrestling ability in this wasn't great, but their gimmicks made the match just so good. And then you've got WrestleMania 12, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. Now, the wrestling ability in this match was spot on.
Yeah.
It was a very, in my mind, overrated matchup at WrestleMania. It was very good, don't get me wrong, but I thought it was more just to do with your wrestling ability. However, if it was more of a gimmicky match, it may have been better.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. Like you said, nowadays they don't have so much of the gimmick type wrestlers anymore. That was a very much old school type thing. But I think it worked. I think there's a lot of things in the past that are better than they are today, and I think maybe that was one of them. They haven't got the characters they used to have, and that's possibly because of the gimmicks. Because you know, as I said, if you combine the two, you've got a legend. You've got someone that's a very, very unbelievable catch for the wrestling world. You know, like Ric Flairs and Shawn Michaels and Undertakers.
That's it. I mean, but some people with their gimmicks, Santino, prime example, fair enough, he may be a good wrestler, but his whole gimmick is he can't wrestle.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to be wrestling a lot in the matches, and when he does wrestle, he doesn't wrestle very well, and he jobs out quite a bit. But his gimmick is just making him succeed and excel in the company. I mean, he's one of the top players on Raw.
Oh, he is.
And he doesn't even wrestle.
Yeah, one of the most liked, well, you just like to hate him, really, but it's, yeah, that's a definite good example of a good gimmick.
Yeah. Now, I would say, what would you say your answer to his question is, then?
I'd say...
Would a wrestler's gimmick override wrestling ability?
I think definitely, yeah. I think a lot of the time it does. Sometimes it saves their career. They're not so good in the ring. Like Jeff Hardy, he's a great wrestler. He's not that great on the mic. If he had that, he'd be a legend probably by now. You know, he'd probably be, you know, he'd have made it a lot quicker than he had done. I mean, he's big now, but he would have been a lot bigger. I think a gimmick is sometimes, as it's a wrestling entertainment world, I think it's sometimes more important than the wrestling inside the ring. Yeah, I think a lot of the time, wrestlers have made it when they've relied on their gimmick and they haven't been so good in the ring. Like if you do it the reversal and they have a great wrestler with not so much of a good gimmick, you know, they don't seem to be doing as well, and you get the fans trying boring it quite a bit at the time.
My answer to the question would be, if wrestling gimmick is going to override wrestling ability, it better be a good gimmick. I mean, all these superstars that have had gimmicks which have made them into the top stars of today, they've all had a brilliant gimmick and they've lived on that gimmick. It is entertainment at the end of the day. You're not watching a pro wrestling match, so gimmick is one of the most important things, if not the most important thing. So I think, yeah, it's brilliant to see these good gimmicks. All these people with both, Undertaker, for example, brilliant wrestling ability and one of the best gimmicks, if not the best gimmick ever, in my opinion, is just, he is that good because he's got gimmick and he's got wrestling ability. And all these top stars have always had good gimmick, good wrestling ability.
Yeah.
But gimmick is very important and it can override, in my opinion. I mean, Cena, for instance, I think he's a good wrestler. I think his gimmick's not bad, but together he is good. He's good. I like him.
Yeah, I think he's reasonable. But that is it. Yeah, it's the difference between good and great. If you got both, you're great. But you're obviously good if you got either of the other two.
That's it. And I know you like Big Papa Pump, and you know his wrestling ability may not be the best anymore. His gimmick is good though, and we do like him under the hat.
Yeah.
Because you always know under the hat's your hookup.
Yeah, oh yeah, it is.
Holler if you hear us.
And yeah, I hope we've given you a good insight on that. Anyway, answered your question, and I'd say, by all means, put your comments down. What do you think is the most important thing to being a wrestler? Yeah, and let us know who you think has had a good gimmick down below, and has had a good enough gimmick to override wrestling ability. Yeah. Because we want a few names down there. Our next episode is going to be on the top 5. There's another top 5. Yeah. The top 5 entrance themes of all time. Yeah. This should be a good one. We'll play some of our best entrance theme music. You'll be hearing some tunes there. They're the best 5 I think in history. That's it. And until next time, what goes on under the hat stays under the hat.